Harper was 3 seconds away from correcting the most embarrassing misunderstanding of her life when she felt firm fingers lace through hers. "Sweetheart," the deep voice resonated beside her, so controlled it seemed rehearsed. "Do you mind if I steal a canapé from your plate?" She froze. The man beside her, obscenely expensive suit, posture that screamed, "I own this place," had just called her sweetheart in front of 50 investors who clearly believed she was his wife. Harper didn't even know his name. Well, she did now. The gold nameplate on his lapel read CEO. She started, but Reese squeezed her hand. It wasn't aggressive, it was a warning. "My wife loves smoked salmon," he continued, smiling at the circle of executives as if she wasn't having an internal meltdown. "But she always steals my shrimp." Polite laughter echoed around them. Harper felt her face heat. "Okay, breathe. Fix this gracefully." Actually, she tried again, but Reese turned to her with those steel gray eyes that seemed to say, "Trust me or ruin everything." "Darling," he murmured, leaning in as if to kiss her temple, but whispering so low only she could hear. 10 minutes, then I'll explain." And then he smiled, a fake, charming, devastating smile. Harper hated how her stomach flipped. 15 minutes earlier, she'd just been trying to do her job. The charity event was on the top floor of the Kincaid Hotel overlooking Boston Harbor, lit up like a diamond necklace. Harper Sinclair, freelance event coordinator, had been hired to make sure everything ran perfectly, which meant checking the tables were positioned correctly, champagne was chilled, and no one tripped over the $3,000 floral arrangements. Simple, professional, invisible, until a woman in a Chanel dress and pearl necklace grabbed her by the elbow. "You must be Reese's wife," the woman practically sang, dragging Harper toward the center of the ballroom. "He never brings you to these events. What a joy to finally meet you. Wait, I think Gerald, come here, it's Mrs. Kincaid." And suddenly, Harper was surrounded. Greetings, smiles, questions about how she and Reese met. Someone commented that she was even lovelier than in the photos. What photos? She tried to back away. "Look, I think there's been a mistake." That's when he appeared. Reese Kincaid crossed the room like he was cutting through water. Silent, direct, impossible to ignore. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair, impeccably styled. He had that neutral expression of someone accustomed to commanding entire rooms without raising his voice. And when his eyes met Harper's, something shifted. For a second, just one, she saw surprise, maybe even recognition. Then he extended his hand and held hers like he did it every day. Now, 10 minutes after being kidnapped into this charade, Harper was still stuck beside Ree while he discussed corporate mergers, as if he hadn't just hijacked a complete stranger to pretend to be his wife. So, a platinum-haired woman with a sharp smile approached. "Are you two finally going to tell us how you met? Ree's is so private." Harper felt panic rise. She looked at Ree. He looked back, waiting. "Seriously? He wants me to make something up?" "Well," Harper began slowly, "it was unexpected." "She ran into me," Ree said. Harper almost choked on air. "With a shopping cart," he continued, absolutely serious, "at Whole Foods. She was distracted, arguing on the phone about centerpieces." Several people laughed. Harper wanted to disappear. "And I," Ree looked at her with something dangerously close to amusement, "was so annoyed that I asked for her number." "You asked for my number because you were annoyed?" Harper shot back before thinking. "Worked, didn't it?" He arched an eyebrow. The circle around them practically melted. Someone sighed. Harper realized too late. They had chemistry. Fake chemistry, but convincing. And Reese Kincaid knew exactly what he was doing. When the group finally dispersed, Ree guided her gently toward the empty terrace. The cold October breeze cut through Harper's dress, which wasn't even hers, borrowed last minute because hers had ripped. She crossed her arms, waiting. "You have exactly 30 seconds to explain," she said. Reese loosened his tie. For the first time that evening, he looked tired. "My mother is sick," he began. "Cancer, advanced stage." Harper felt her stomach drop. "She's at a clinic in Switzerland. She's having a risky procedure next week." He paused. "The only thing she wants before she passes is to see me married." "So you invented a wife?" "No." He slipped his hands into his pockets. "I told her I was seeing someone. She insisted on meeting her. I postponed again, then she got worse and..." He took a deep breath. Today, 15 minutes before this event, she called me, asked if my girlfriend would be here. I said yes, and then you showed up. Harper blinked. And you thought I was the perfect solution? You're the only woman at this event who isn't trying to impress me. Rhys stared at her. And when Margaret Sutherland mistook you for my wife, you tried to correct her 3 times. That told me everything I needed to know. That I'm honest? That you don't want anything from me. They stood in silence. Harper should be furious, should leave, should... How long? She heard her own voice ask. Rhys looked up. What? How long does your mother have? Weeks, maybe less. Darn it. Harper Sinclair was many things. Sarcastic, stubborn, terrible with plants. But she wasn't cruel. And the thought of a mother dying without seeing her son happy. 1 week, she said. I'll pretend to be your girlfriend for 1 week. You pay me triple my normal rate, and after that, we break up politely. Rhys studied her face. Why would you agree to this? Because, Harper sighed, my mother also died of cancer, and she did the same thing, worried more about me than herself until the last second. She met his eyes. I couldn't give her what she wanted, but maybe I can give yours what she needs. Something crossed Rhys's face. It wasn't exactly gratitude, it was deeper, more dangerous. Deal, he said. They shook hands, formal, professional, except his fingers lingered a second too long before letting go. And when Harper walked back inside, pretending to smile at the guests who now treated her like royalty, she couldn't stop thinking about one thing. She just agreed to pretend to love a man who, for some reason, made her forget it was all pretend, and they still had 6 days and 23 hours left. Perfect. Harper woke up the next morning, convinced she dreamed the entire thing. Then her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. Car will pick you up at 10 a.m. Wear something casual but expensive looking. We're meeting my mother's best friend for brunch. RK. She stared at the screen. Right. Not a dream, a contractual arrangement with a gorgeous CEO who'd somehow convinced her to lie to a dying woman. What could possibly go wrong? Harper groaned and buried her face in her pillow. Her apartment was a studio in Austin. Charming, if you were generous. Cramped, if you were honest. The exposed brick was real. The heating was questionable. And her kitchen was basically a hot plate and a mini-fridge. But it was hers. Paid for with late nights coordinating weddings, corporate galas, and the occasional bat mitzvah. She rolled out of bed and opened her closet. Casual but expensive looking. Harper owned exactly 3 items that could qualify. A cream cashmere sweater she'd found at a consignment shop, dark jeans that actually fit, and ankle boots that had cost her an entire weekend's pay but made her feel like she could negotiate world peace. She was halfway through her second cup of coffee when another text arrived. RK. Forgot to mention her name is Patricia Whitmore. She thinks we've been dating for 6 months. Try to look happy. Harper typed back. I'll do my best impression of someone who enjoys being blackmailed into fake relationships. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. RK. I'm paying you, remember? Harper. Triple rate doesn't cover emotional labor. RK. I'll add a bonus. Harper. Now we're talking. She set the phone down, surprised to find herself smiling. The car that arrived at exactly 10 a.m. was not a car. It was a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than Harper made in 2 years. The driver, older gentleman, kind eyes, opened the door without a word. Miss Sinclair? That's me. She slid into the back seat, immediately sinking into leather so soft it felt illegal. Rhys was already inside. He looked different in daylight, still ridiculously handsome. That hadn't changed, but less controlled. He ditched the suit for charcoal slacks and a navy sweater that made his eyes look almost blue. His hair was slightly less perfect, like he'd run his fingers through it a few times. Morning, he said. Morning. Harper buckled her seatbelt. So, Patricia Whitmore, what do I need to know? Rhys pulled out his phone and opened what appeared to be a detailed dossier. Of course, he had a dossier. Patricia is 72, former ambassador to France, currently serves on the boards of 3 museums and a children's hospital. She's known my mother since college. Sharp as a knife, suspicious by nature, and will absolutely interrogate you. Fantastic. She also, Reese continued, believes we met at a gallery opening in Soho 6 months ago. You were there covering the event. I was there avoiding a business dinner. We argued about a Rothko painting. Harper blinked. A what painting? Mark Rothko, abstract expressionist. You argued that his color fields were overrated. I defended them. We've been inseparable ever since. You made this up last night, didn't you? I don't sleep much. Harper studied him. There were faint shadows under his eyes, tension in his jaw. He looked like a man running on coffee and sheer willpower. When's the last time you actually slept? She asked. Reese glanced at her, surprised. Why? Because you look exhausted. I'm fine. That's not what I asked. They locked eyes. For a moment, Harper thought he might actually answer honestly. Then his phone buzzed. He looked away. We're here. The restaurant was called Melchior, tucked into a cobblestone street in Beacon Hill, the kind of place where reservations were made months in advance, and the menu didn't list prices because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Patricia Whitmore was already seated at a corner table, champagne flute in hand. She was exactly what Harper expected. Elegant silver hair, pearls, her Hermes scarf draped just so. Her eyes, pale green and unnervingly perceptive, tracked them from the moment they entered. Ree, Patricia stood, accepting his kiss on her cheek. And this must be Harper. Miss Whitmore, Harper extended her hand. It's wonderful to finally meet you. Please call me Patricia. The older woman's handshake was firm. And let me look at you properly. She stepped back, appraising Harper with the focus of someone evaluating a piece of art. Harper resisted the urge to fidget. Well, Patricia finally said, you're certainly not what I expected. Reese stiffened beside her. I expected someone more, Patricia waved her hand vaguely, polished, corporate. The usual type who circles Ree at these dreadful events. I'm definitely not that, Harper said. No, Patricia smiled. I can see why he likes you. They sat. A waiter appeared immediately, pouring water, reciting specials Harper couldn't pronounce. So, Patricia said once they'd ordered, tell me everything. How did you two really meet? And don't give me that gallery story. Ree is a terrible liar. Harper's heart jumped. She glanced at Ree. He looked completely calm. It was a gallery. Mm-hmm. Patricia sipped her champagne. And what were you doing there, Harper? Here goes nothing. Working? Harper said. I coordinate events. The gallery was hosting a private showing, and I was managing the logistics. Rees was hiding near the coat check, looking miserable. Patricia laughed. That sounds accurate. He asked if there was a back exit, Harper continued, warming to the story. I told him there was, but he'd have to get past the photographer, so he asked me to create a distraction. Did you? I spilled an entire tray of champagne. Ree turned to look at her. Harper couldn't read his expression. Accidentally, of course, she added. But it worked. Rees escaped. I got fired. You did not, Ree said quietly. I didn't, Harper admitted. But you did send me flowers the next day with an apology note and your phone number, which you ignored for 2 weeks, Ree added, playing along now. I thought you were arrogant. I am arrogant. Yes, but now I find it charming. Patricia was beaming. And when did you realize he was different from the usual corporate sharks? Harper looked at Ree, really looked at him. When he asked about my mother, she said softly, on our 3rd date. Most guys don't want to hear about complicated family stuff, but he listened, and he told me about his mom, about her being sick, and I realized he wasn't just some CEO. He was a person, a good one. The table went quiet. Patricia's eyes were misty. Eleanor would adore you. Ree's hand found Harper's under the table. He squeezed gently. Thank you, the gesture said. Harper squeezed back. Brunch lasted 2 hours. Patricia grilled Harper on everything. Her childhood in Vermont, her disastrous theater phase, her obsession with true crime podcasts, her inability to keep houseplants alive. Harper answered honestly, only lying when absolutely necessary. And somehow it felt easy. Rees watched her the entire time with an expression she couldn't quite name. When Patricia finally excused herself to take a phone call, Harper slumped back in her chair. "I need a nap," she muttered. "You were perfect," Ree said. "I made up half of that. The best parts were real." Harper looked at him. "The part about your mom?" "Yes, I meant it. About her adoring me." Ree's jaw tightened. "She would have. Would have. Past tense?" Harper's chest.
Before she could respond, Patricia returned, phone in hand and face pale. "Ree," she said quietly, "that was the clinic. Your mother," she paused, "she wants to do a video call now with both of you." The color drained from Reese's face. Harper's stomach dropped. They weren't ready for this. They'd barely survived brunch with Patricia, but a video call with his dying mother? Reese stood. "Where?" "My car. More private." They followed Patricia outside, Harper's heart hammering. This was happening right now. No preparation, no script. Just her, Ree, and the lie that was supposed to give a dying woman peace. Reese's hand found hers again as they walked. This time, Harper wasn't sure if he was studying her or if she was steadying him. Patricia's car was a vintage Bentley that smelled like leather and old money. Harper slid into the back seat beside Ree, her palms sweating. Patricia handed Ree her tablet already connected to the video call, then tactfully stepped outside to give them privacy. The screen showed a loading symbol. "Breathe," Ree said quietly. "I am breathing." "You're holding your breath." Harper exhaled. "What if she asks something we haven't prepared for? Then we improvise." He looked at her, "Like you did with Patricia." "That was different. Patricia isn't—" The screen flickered. A woman's face appeared. Eleanor Kincaid looked nothing like Harper expected. She was thin, painfully so, but her eyes were bright and sharp. A silk scarf covered her head, and she wore pearl earrings that caught the light. Even sick, even thousands of miles away, she radiated elegance. "There's my boy," Eleanor said, her voice warm but tired. "Hi, Mom." Reese's entire demeanor changed, softer, younger. "How are you feeling?" "Never mind me. Is that her? Let me see her properly." Reese angled the tablet so Harper was in frame. Harper's throat went dry. She managed to smile. "Hi, Mrs. Kincaid." "Eleanor, please." The older woman leaned closer to her own camera, studying Harper's face. "Patricia called me in a panic, saying Ree finally brought someone to brunch. I had to see for myself." "She's exaggerating," Ree said. "She said you two looked at each other like you'd invented romance." Harper felt her face heat. Reese shifted beside her. "Patricia has always been dramatic," Eleanor continued, "but I trust her instincts. And Harper, what a lovely name. Tell me, dear, what do you do?" "I coordinate events," Harper said. "Weddings, galas, corporate functions, anything that requires excessive planning and mild panic." Eleanor laughed, a real laugh that lit up her whole face. "A planner? Perfect. Reese needs someone organized. He'd live in his office if we let him." "I've noticed," Harper said. "He already tried to schedule our next date via spreadsheet." "I did not," Ree protested. "You color-coded our availability windows." Eleanor was delighting in this. "How did you two meet? Ree has been maddeningly vague." Harper glanced at Ree. "They told Patricia the gallery story, but was that the same version he'd told his mother?" Ree gave her a slight nod. "Go ahead." "A gallery opening in Soho," Harper said. 6 months ago. I was working. He was hiding from photographers. We got into an argument about a painting." "What kind of argument?" "I said Rothko's color fields were pretentious. He said I was being reductive." "And who won?" Eleanor asked. "Neither of us," Ree said. "We argued through 3 glasses of champagne. And then I asked for her number, which I didn't give him." Eleanor's eyebrows rose. "You turned down my son twice," Harper said. "He's very persistent. He gets that from me." Eleanor coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made Reese tense beside Harper. When she recovered, her smile was weaker. "I'm glad he didn't give up on you. You seem real. The others were always so polished, so perfect. But you have warmth." Harper's chest tightened. "That's kind of you to say. It's not kindness, it's observation." Eleanor paused.
May I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you love him? The question hung in the air. Harper felt Ree go completely still. She could lie, should lie. That was the whole point. But looking at Eleanor, this woman who just wanted her son to be happy before she died, Harper couldn't make it sound hollow. I'm falling, Harper said quietly. It's terrifying and completely unexpected, but yes, I'm falling for him. Eleanor's eyes welled up. Ree? He was staring at Harper like he'd never seen her before. Mom, he said, voice rough, I need to go. We have Reese. Michael Kincaid, you answer me right now. Harper bit back a smile. Even dying, Eleanor was formidable. Ree exhaled. Yes, I love her. The words were quiet, simple, and Harper's heart forgot how to beat properly. Good, Eleanor said, because I want you to bring her to Switzerland next week. I'm having the procedure on Friday, and I'd like Harper there. If she's going to be part of this family, she should meet everyone. Harper's mind went blank. I say yes, Eleanor said. Please, it would mean everything to me. Ree's hand found Harper's. He squeezed. You don't have to do this. You already said that. I'm saying it again. It's too much. I shouldn't have asked. Harper turned to face him. Do you want me to back out? He stopped, started again. I want you to do what's right for you, not what you think I need. What if they're the same thing? Ree searched her face. Why would you do this? Really? Not the money, not the contract. Why? Harper thought about her own mother, about the hospice room that smelled like antiseptic and lilies, about all the things left unsaid because she'd been too scared, too young, too stubborn. Because your mom is dying, Harper said simply, and she wants to see you happy. And maybe giving her that is worth a little dishonesty. Maybe it's the kindest thing we can do, even if it's a lie. Even then, Ree looked at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. Not the charming, practiced smile from the charity event. Something real and sad and grateful all at once. You're a better person than I am, he said. Debatable, Harper. Reese, he leaned closer. For one wild second, Harper thought he might kiss her. Instead, he rested his forehead against hers. Thank you, he whispered. Harper closed her eyes. You're welcome. They stayed like that, foreheads touching, breathing synchronized, until Patricia knocked on the window. Reese dropped Harper off at her apartment an hour later. She climbed the 3 flights of stairs in a daze, unlocked her door, and immediately collapsed on her second-hand couch. Her phone buzzed. Reese, I'll have my assistant send over Switzerland details. We leave Monday. Harper, that's 4 days away. Reese, I know, I'm sorry. Harper, stop apologizing. I said yes. Reese, why? Harper stared at the question. She could give him the same answer she'd given in the car, the safe answer, but something about today, about Eleanor's eyes, about the weight of Reese's forehead against hers, made her want to be honest. Harper, because you looked at your mother like she hung the moon, and because when you thought I wasn't looking, you smiled at something she said, a real smile, and I thought, if I can help you keep that smile a little longer, even if it's built on a lie, maybe that's worth something. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Reese, dinner tomorrow. We should coordinate our story before Switzerland. Harper, smooth subject change. Reese, I'm told I'm good at evasion. Harper, fine, but I'm picking the place, somewhere normal people eat. Reese, that's barbaric. Harper laughed despite herself. Harper, 7 p.m. I'll text you the address. Where's something that doesn't cost more than my rent? Reese, impossible. Harper, try. She sat down her phone, still smiling. 4 days until Switzerland. 4 days to prepare for the biggest performance of her life. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a dangerous thought whispered, what if it stops feeling like a performance?
Pushed the thought away. This was a job, a week-long contract with a clear end date, nothing more. Even if Reese's I love her had sounded a little too real for comfort. Even if her own I'm falling hadn't felt like acting at all. Harper chose a Thai restaurant in Cambridge that she'd been going to since college. Salati had mismatched chairs, string lights that flickered occasionally, weathered wooden tables that had seen better days, and the best pad Thai in New England. The kind of place where you ordered at the counter, the owner remembered your usual, and the plastic menus were laminated so many times they were practically bulletproof. It was the opposite of everywhere Ree probably ate, which was exactly why Harper picked it. Reese arrived exactly at 7, wearing dark jeans and a plain gray Henley that somehow still looked expensive. His hair was less perfectly styled than usual, like he'd actually run his fingers through it instead of letting some fancy stylist have at it. Harper almost didn't recognize him without the armor of expensive tailoring. "You actually dressed down," she said, standing from the corner booth she'd claimed. "Don't get used to it," but he was smiling as he slid into the seat across from her. "This place is normal. I was going to say charming." Liar. "Authentically charming," he amended, looking around at the faded travel posters of Thailand on the walls. The Buddha statue by the register, the family photos behind the counter. "How long have you been coming here?" "Since freshman year of college. My roommate was from Bangkok, and she said this was the only place in Boston that didn't make her homesick." Harper picked up a menu, even though she didn't need it. "Fair warning, it's not fancy. The plates don't match. Sometimes the service is slow because it's literally just the owner's family running everything. But the food is incredible." "I trust you," Reese said simply. Something about those 3 words made Harper's chest feel warm. The owner's daughter, Mai, who'd graduated from BU 2 years ago and was back helping the family, appeared at their table with a knowing smile. "Harper, long time." Mai's eyes slid to Ree with obvious interest. "And you brought a date, finally." Harper felt her face heat. "Mai, this is Ree. Reese, this is Mai. She's been trying to set me up with her cousin for 3 years. He's a dentist now," Mai said proudly. "Very good teeth." "I'm sure he's wonderful," Harper said diplomatically. "But this one is better," Mai decided, looking Ree up and down. "Okay, what you want?" They ordered, Harper getting her usual drunken noodles with extra basil, Reese trusting her recommendation for the
massaman curry with chicken. Mai also brought them Thai iced teas without asking and disappeared back to the kitchen, already shouting their order in Thai. "She seems nice," Reese said. "She's going to interrogate me about you for the next 6 months. What will you tell her?" Harper met his eyes across the table. "I don't know yet. What should I tell her?" The question hung between them, weighted with everything they hadn't discussed since last night's charity event. Before Ree could answer, Mai returned with their drinks and a plate of spring rolls on the house for the pretty couple. She winked and left again. "We should probably talk," Reese said quietly, once they were alone. "Probably about what happens next." Harper took a sip of her Thai iced tea, buying herself a moment. "You mean Switzerland?" "I mean all of it. Switzerland, my family, the fact that we're about to spend a week lying to everyone I love." He paused. "The fact that I'm asking you to be complicit in something that feels increasingly wrong." "Reed, let me finish." He leaned forward, his voice low. "When I asked you to do this, it was supposed to be simple. A few public appearances, maybe a video call or 2, but my mother wants you in Switzerland. My sister already stalked your Instagram. My father is going to interrogate you like you're applying for a position at the company, and I'm realizing that I've pulled you into something much bigger than I had any right to ask." Harper set down her glass. "Are you trying to back out?" "I'm trying to give you an out before this gets more complicated." "What if I don't want out?" Reese studied her face. "Why not? This is insane. You barely know me." "I know enough." "You know what I've shown you, which isn't much." "Then show me more," Harper said. She reached across the table and took his hand. "We have, 4 days before we leave? Let's use them. Tell me about your family. Tell me about you. Give me the real story, not the sanitized version." Reese looked at their joined hands. "Where do I start?" "Start with your mom. Tell me about her. Not the cancer, not the dying. Tell me about who she is." Something in Reese's expression softened. "She's the strongest person I know. When my dad was building his company, working 100-hour weeks, she basically raised Madison and me alone. But she never complained, never made us feel like we were missing out on anything." "What was she like when you were a kid?" "Magical." Reese smiled at the memory.
She made everything an adventure. Grocery shopping became a scavenger hunt. Rainy days meant building blanket forts and telling stories. She taught us that money didn't matter. What mattered was curiosity and kindness and paying attention to the people around you. Your dad didn't agree. My dad thinks money is the only thing that matters. Success, legacy, building something that lasts. Reese's jaw tightened. He and my mom fought about it constantly when we were growing up. Not loud fights. My family doesn't do loud, but you could feel it. This fundamental disagreement about what makes life worth living. Which side did you land on? I spent 20 years trying to make my dad proud. Built the company bigger than he ever did. Made more money, more connections, more everything. He paused. And I was miserable. Harper squeezed his hand. When did you realize? 2 years ago. I was at this gala, ironically, and I looked around and realized I didn't know anyone there. Not really. They were all business contacts, potential investors, people who wanted something from me. And I thought, is this it? Is this what I built? What did you do? Nothing, Ree admitted. I kept going to the galas, kept making the deals, kept being exactly who everyone expected me to be because I didn't know how to be anything else. Their food arrived, steaming and fragrant. Mai set down the plates with a flourish and immediately disappeared again, as if sensing they needed privacy. Harper picked up her chopsticks. And now? Now, I'm sitting in a Thai restaurant in Cambridge with a woman who told me my floral budget was ridiculous. And for the first time in 2 years, I feel like myself. Harper felt her throat tighten. Reese, try the curry, he said, clearly changing the subject. You promised it would change my life. Harper let him deflect. She watched as he took his first bite, his eyebrows rising in surprise. Okay, he admitted. This is incredible. Told you. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. The restaurant hummed around them, conversations in Thai and English, the sizzle from the kitchen, someone's grandmother laughing at something on her phone. Normal sounds, regular life, Harper realized. Reese was watching her. What? She asked. You look happy here. I am happy here. This is my world. Cheap food, mismatched furniture, places where everyone knows your name. She paused. Is it too different from yours? Yes, Ree said honestly, but I think that's what I like about it. They talked through dinner to lighter things. Harper's most disastrous event coordination story. A wedding where the groom's ex showed up in a wedding dress. Reese's worst business meeting. A potential investor who spent the entire presentation on a phone call with his therapist. Their shared hatred of small talk at fancy parties. By the time Mai brought the mango sticky rice to share, also on the house, Harper felt like she'd known Ree for months instead of days. So, she said, splitting the dessert between 2 plates, Switzerland. We need a better story than the gallery opening. What's wrong with the gallery story? It's fine for Patricia, but your family will poke holes in it immediately, especially Madison. Reese grimaced. You're right. She texted me earlier asking which gallery and what painting and what I was wearing that night. See, we need something solid, something with enough truth that we don't trip over the lies. The truth, Reese said slowly, or as close as we can get. Harper pulled out her phone and opened her notes app. Okay, let's build this properly. When did we actually meet? The charity gala. 2 weeks ago, right? And I was there because you were coordinating the event, and you were there because I was hosting. It's my company's annual fundraiser for children's hospitals. Harper typed rapidly. Okay, so we met professionally. How did it become personal? Reese thought for a moment. You told me the floral arrangements were overpriced. I actually did that? You did? You pulled me aside during setup and said, and I quote, Mr. Conacade, I don't know who you florist is, but you're being robbed blind by people who think a peony costs $50 when it doesn't. Harper laughed. I have no memory of this. I do, very clearly, because no one talks to me like that. Like what? Like I'm a person instead of a checkbook. Reese leaned back. You also told me the caterer was trying to upcharge me for champagne that wasn't even the right vintage, and that the string quartet I'd hired was good, but overpriced for what they delivered. I sound delightful. You were honest. It was refreshing. He smiled. I asked you to have a drink after the event. You said you couldn't because you don't drink with clients. I said, what if I hired you for another event? Would you be a client then,
or a former client. You said that was semantics and you had to go. Harper was typing frantically. This is perfect. So, when did you hire me again? I didn't. Not right away. Reese's expression turned thoughtful. I called you 3 days later about a corporate dinner I was planning. You gave me a quote. I told you it was too expensive just to see what you'd say. What did I say? You told me if I wanted cheap, I could hire college students. If I wanted professional, this was the rate. Then you hung up on me. Harper looked up. I did not. You absolutely did. I called back. You let it go to voicemail. I sent an email. You responded with a single word. No. Why? You thought I was jerking you around, testing you, playing games. Reese met her eyes. So I sent you a contract, full price, no negotiation, with a personal note apologizing for being difficult. And I accepted. You did? We worked together on 2 more events after that, and every time you treated me like a regular client.
Harper could see where this was going. And that's what made you interested. That's what made me realize you were different. Everyone else sees the money, the name, the company. You saw a client who needed an event coordinator. Reese paused. The 3rd event was a product launch in September. Everything you said earlier about it being late, everyone leaving, you arguing with the caterer, that actually happened. And you were reviewing quarterly reports. I was pretending to review quarterly reports. Actually, I was watching you work and trying to figure out how to ask you to dinner without sounding like every other wealthy guy who thinks his money makes him interesting. Harper set down her phone. What did you do? I waited until you were packing up. Then I helped you carry boxes to your car. You helped me carry boxes? You had 17 boxes of promotional materials that needed to be returned to the warehouse. Your car was parked 3 blocks away. I carried 9 of them. Harper couldn't help but smile. And then? And then you said thank you and started to leave. And I realized if I didn't say something, you'd just disappear. So I asked if you'd have dinner with me. What did I say? Reese's smile turned rueful. You said you'd think about it and let me know. Then you didn't call for 3 weeks. Why not? I don't know. You'll have to tell me. He looked at her expectantly. What would make Harper Sinclair ignore a dinner invitation for 3 weeks? Harper thought about it, about who she was, what she valued, what scared her. I'd be worried it was a mistake, that crossing that line with a client would complicate things, that if it went wrong, I'd lose not just the relationship, but the professional connection. And what would change your mind? You'd have to convince me it was worth the risk. How? Harper looked at Reese, really looked at him, at the way he'd opened up about his mother, his family, his own struggles, at how he'd shown up at a cheap Thai restaurant and genuinely seemed to enjoy it, at how he listened when she talked, asked real questions, treated her like an equal. You'd show up at my favorite bookstore on a Sunday morning, she said quietly, because I mentioned once that I spend every Sunday at Trident Booksellers, and you'd pretend it was a coincidence, but you'd have that book on corporate strategy that I teased you about, and we'd get coffee and browse for 2 hours and talk about everything except work. And by the end, I'd realized that maybe you were worth the risk. Reese was staring at her. That's perfect. Is it true? The bookstore part isn't, but it should be. It's better than what actually happened. What actually happened? I sent you flowers every day for a week with increasingly ridiculous notes. Day 1 was dinner. Day 7 was, I promise I'm not a serial killer, just awkward and interested. Harper burst out laughing. That's terrible. It worked. You called me on day 8 and said you'd give me 1 dinner to prove I wasn't completely insufferable. And was it just 1 dinner? It was supposed to be, but we talked for 4 hours and then I walked you home, and when we got to your building, you said we could do it again sometime if you wanted, and you wanted very much. They sat in silence, the story, half real, half imagined, settling around them like a warm blanket. So that's what we tell your family, Harper finally said. We met professionally, worked together, slowly became personal. First date was mid-September at a bookstore. We've been together for about 3 months, not 6. That's more believable. Anyway, 3 months is still fast for introducing someone to the family, but your mom is sick. That accelerates everything. It makes sense you'd want her to meet me sooner rather than later. Reese nodded slowly. Okay, 3 months, bookstore, first date.
What else do they need to know? Harper consulted her notes. Where do I live? Alston. Studio apartment. You've lived there for 4 years. How did you know that? I hired you 3 times. I read your invoices. He smiled. The address was on everyone. Creepy. Thorough. What do you know about my family? Reese hesitated. Your mother died when you were 23. Cancer. You took a year off work to be her caregiver. You don't talk about your father. Harper's chest tightened. How do you know that? You told me during the product launch. We were talking about why you do this work, coordinating events, making sure every detail is perfect. You said it was because your mom used to throw the best birthday parties when you were a kid, that she made everyone feel special, even when money was tight, and you wanted to give that feeling to other people. Harper didn't remember telling him that, but it sounded like something she'd say. My father left when I was 12, just never came home one day. No explanation, no goodbye. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. When she got sick, I dropped out of college to take care of her. By the time she died, I'd missed too much school to go back. I'm sorry. Don't be. I learned event planning from her anyway. She taught me everything. How to stretch a budget, how to make magic out of nothing, how to pay attention to what people really want versus what they say they want. Harper managed a small smile. I probably learned more from her than I would have from any college program. Do you ever regret not finishing? Sometimes, but mostly I'm grateful I had that time with her, even though it was hard. Reese reached across the table and took both her hands. Your mom would be proud of you. The business you've built, the person you are, all of it. Harper's eyes burned. Thank you. And Harper, we don't have to tell my family any of that if you don't want to. We can keep it vague. No, Harper said firmly. If we're going to do this, we do it right. They get the real story, the real me, as much as possible, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard. They stayed at the restaurant until Mai started obviously cleaning around them, a hint that they should probably leave. Ree paid the bill over Harper's protests, leaving a tip so generous that Mai actually hugged him. You come back, Mai said firmly, and bring her. She smiles more with you. Outside, the October air was crisp and cool. Boston felt alive around them. Students rushing to late classes, couples walking hand in hand, the rumble of the T underground. Where are you parked? Harper asked. I'm not. My driver dropped me off. So you need a ride home? I was planning to take the T. Harper stared at him. You were going to take the subway? Is that strange for you? Yes. Do you even know how? Reese looked affronted. I went to college. I know how public transportation works. When was the last time you actually used it? 2008. Harper laughed. Come on, I'll drive you. My car is parked about 3 blocks from here. They walked through Cambridge, past the bookstores and coffee shops, the late-night pizza places, and the students arguing about philosophy on street corners. This is where you went to college? Reese asked. Community college. Different vibe, but I spent a lot of time in this neighborhood anyway. Felt like where I was supposed to be. Do you ever wish you'd gone somewhere different? Somewhere more prestigious? Harper shrugged. Sometimes. But honestly, I learned more from my mom and from working real events than I ever would have in a classroom. There's no textbook for dealing with a bride who decides to change her entire color scheme 2 days before the wedding. That happened twice. They reached Harper's car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door and a bumper sticker that said, I brake for dessert. Ree looked at it with obvious affection. This is perfect. It's a disaster. It's authentically you. Harper unlocked the doors. Get in before I change my mind about driving you. The inside of her car was exactly what Reese expected. Reusable coffee cups in the holders, a stack of event planning folders in the back, an old cable tangled with her phone charger. It smelled like vanilla air freshener and old coffee. Harper started the engine. Where am I going? Beacon Hill. Of course you live in Beacon Hill. Where did you think I lived? A penthouse somewhere or a mansion in the suburbs with a moat? I don't have a moat, but you have a penthouse. It's a brownstone, historic, 5 bedrooms, which is ridiculous because I live alone. Harper pulled into traffic. Why 5 bedrooms? My father said it was a good investment. Turns out he was right. The value has tripled since I bought it. Do you like it? Reese was quiet for a moment. I like that it's mine, but it's too big, too quiet. Sometimes I work until midnight just so I don't have to go home to an empty house. Harper glanced at him. You could get a dog. I'm never home enough for a dog. A cat? I'm allergic. A plant? I've killed every plant I've ever owned. So have I, Harper admitted. I think it's a superpower. They drove through Boston, the city lights reflecting off the Charles River, the golden dome of the State House glowing against the night sky. Reese directed her through the narrow streets of Beacon Hill until they reached a pristine brownstone with actual gas lamps flanking the door. Harper parked. This is beautiful. Want to come in? The question hung in the air between them. Harper knew what she should say. It was late. They had early meetings tomorrow. This was already complicated enough. But she heard herself say, okay. Ree's home was exactly what she expected, and nothing like it at the same time. High ceilings, original molding, hardwood floors that gleamed. But instead of the sterile minimalism she'd imagined, there were books everywhere. Stacks on coffee tables, shelves lining every wall, piles next to armchairs. You read, Harper said, surprised. Why is that surprising? I don't know. I guess I assumed you just read quarterly reports and business strategy books. I do read those, but I also read fiction, history, poetry sometimes. He looked almost embarrassed. My mom got me into it. She said if you want to understand people, you have to read their stories. Harper wandered over to a bookshelf, scanning the titles. You have good taste. Thank you. She pulled out a worn copy of The Great Gatsby. This was my mom's favorite book. Mine too. Really? I reread it every year. There's something about it. The longing, the impossibility of going back. The way Gatsby built his entire life around one person. Ree moved to stand beside her. I used to think he was foolish. Now I think he was brave. Harper looked up at him. They were very close. Why? She asked softly. Because he knew what he wanted. Even if it destroyed him, even if it was impossible, he knew. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Maybe both. Harper was acutely aware of Reese's proximity, the way he was looking at her, the fact that they were alone in his too big house with all his books and silence. We should talk about Switzerland, she said, even though it was the last thing she wanted to talk about. We should.
Ree agreed, not moving. Your family? I need to know what to expect. Right. Neither of them moved. Ree, Harper whispered. Harper, he said back just as quiet. And then somehow they were kissing. She didn't know who moved first, didn't care. His hands were in her hair, hers were clutching his shirt, and it was nothing like the practiced performative kiss she'd suggested earlier. This was real, desperate, honest. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ree rested his forehead against hers. That wasn't practice, he said. No, we should probably talk about that. Probably. But instead of talking, Ree kissed her again, slower this time, sweeter, like he was memorizing the taste of her. Harper's phone buzzed in her pocket, making them both jump. She pulled it out, saw Madison's name, and almost dropped it. Madison. Coffee tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., thinking cup. I promise I don't bite much. Harper showed Reese the message. He groaned. She's stalking you already. Should I ignore it? You could try. She'll just show up at your apartment instead. Harper was already typing back. Sure. When and where? Madison already told you. Thinking cup, 10 a.m., don't be late. I want to hear everything about you before Switzerland. Also, I already like you more than anyone else Reese has dated, so don't screw this up. Harper showed Ree. He looked pained. She's going to interrogate you. I know. She's very good at it. She made opposing counsel cry once. Was the opposing counsel an actual adult? A federal prosecutor. Terrifying. That's Madison. But Ree was smiling. Are you sure you want to do this? Meet my sister? Meet my father? Fly to Switzerland? Lie to a dying mother? Harper looked around his beautiful, lonely house, at the books that showed who he really was beneath the CEO exterior, at his face open and vulnerable in a way she suspected he rarely allowed. I'm sure, she said. Why? Because someone needs to carry those 17 boxes, she smiled. And because maybe you're worth the risk. Ree pulled her close again. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you don't regret this. You better. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, finally her lips, soft and promising, and full of things neither of them were ready to say out loud yet. When Harper finally left, reluctantly, after another 20 minutes of kissing in his hallway, she drove home in a daze. Her phone buzzed at a red light. Ree, Thank you for tonight. For the restaurant, the conversation, the kiss, all of it. Harper, which kiss? Reese, all of them. Harper smiled at her phone like an idiot. Harper, you're welcome. See you before Switzerland. Ree, dinner with my father tomorrow night. He wants to meet you. Harper, Madison in the morning, your father at night. You're really throwing me into the deep end. Ree, I can call it off. Harper, don't you dare. I'm all in, remember, Ree? I remember. Harper pulled into her parking spot, turned off the car, and sat there for a moment. 4 days until Switzerland. 4 days until she lied to a dying woman while holding her son's hand. 4 days until everything got infinitely more complicated. But as Harper climbed the stairs to her tiny apartment, she wasn't scared. She was falling. And for the first time in years, that felt like exactly the right thing to do. Harper woke up the next morning, convinced she'd imagined the kisses. Then she saw the text waiting on her phone. Ree, good morning. Don't let Madison scare you too much. She's protective, but she means well. Harper smiled and typed back. Too late to warn me. I'm already terrified. Ree, you'll be fine. Just be yourself. Harper, what if myself isn't impressive enough for a human rights lawyer who made a federal prosecutor cry? Then she'll love you even more. Madison hates impressive people. Harper laughed and rolled out of bed. She had exactly 90 minutes to shower, look presentable, and mentally prepare for cross-examination by Reese's terrifying sister. No pressure. Thinking Cup was packed when Harper arrived at 9:59 a.m. She spotted Madison immediately, claimed a corner table scrolling through her phone with laser-focused dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She wore a tailored navy blazer and had the same sharp cheekbones as Ree, the same assessing gray eyes. Harper took a breath and approached. Madison. The woman looked up and her face broke into an unexpected smile. Harper Sinclair, you're braver than I thought. Excuse me? Showing up. Most of Ree's dates conveniently develop sudden emergencies when I suggest coffee. Madison stood, extending her hand. The last one claimed her cat was sick. Did she actually have a cat? No. Madison's smile widened. I checked. They sat. A barista appeared immediately. Madison clearly had the kind of presence that commanded instant service, and Harper ordered a cappuccino, while Madison already had an Americano going cold. So, Madison said, settling back, you're dating my brother. I am. For 3 months, Harper blinked. Had they said 3 months? She tried to remember last night's conversation through the haze of Thai food and kissing. Yes, she said, hoping that was right. And he's bringing you to Switzerland to meet my dying mother. Harper's stomach clenched at the bluntness. Yes. Madison studied her for a long moment. You know what I think? I have a feeling you're about to tell me. I like you already. Madison took a sip of coffee. Here's the thing, Harper. Ree has dated exactly 3 women in the past 5 years that I know of. Caroline, the corporate lawyer who referred to herself in third person, Vanessa, the art dealer who only ate foods that were white, and Philippa, we never did figure out what Philippa actually did for a living. Harper tried not to laugh. They sound interesting. They were appropriate, accomplished, boring as watching paint dry in slow motion. Madison leaned forward. But you're different. I stalked your Instagram. So I heard. Your last post was pad thai with the caption, dinner is served. Before that, you shared a meme about event planning that made me actually laugh in the middle of a deposition. Madison's expression softened slightly. You're real. That's rare in Reese's world. Harper's cappuccino arrived. She used the moment to compose herself. I'm just me. I can't compete with art dealers and corporate lawyers. Good. Don't try. Madison's gaze turned piercing. Look, I'm protective of my brother. Our mother is sick, our father is impossible, and Ree has this terrible habit of putting everyone else's needs before his own. If you're going to be with him, especially now, I need to know you're not going to break his heart. The words hit harder than they should have, because Madison was right to be concerned. Harper was lying, and when this ended, when Eleanor recovered or didn't, when the arrangement was over, Ree would have to pretend to be heartbroken. Or maybe he wouldn't have to pretend. Harper thought about last night. The kisses that felt nothing like acting. The way Ree had looked at her in his book-filled house. The text he'd sent this morning. I care about him, Harper said quietly. It was the truth. I didn't expect to. It's fast and complicated and probably terrifying, but I care. Madison's shoulders relaxed fractionally. He cares about you too. I can tell. How? Because he told Mom about you. Reese never tells Mom about anyone. He keeps his personal life locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Madison paused. Until you. Harper's throat tightened. Madison, do you love him? The question was sudden, direct, pure Madison. Harper thought about lying, about giving the safe, practiced answer, but something about Madison's expression, hope mixed with fierce protectiveness, made her honest. I'm falling for him, Harper admitted. I didn't plan it, but yes, I'm falling. Madison smiled, a real smile that transformed her whole face. Good, because he's falling for you too, and it would really suck if this was one-sided. They talked for another hour about everything except the weight of what they just discussed. Madison's work in London defending asylum seekers, Harper's most disastrous wedding coordination story involving a groom who got arrested mid-ceremony, their shared hatred of networking events and small talk. By the time they left, Harper felt like she'd not just passed a test, she'd gained an ally. Madison hugged her at the door. See you in Switzerland. And Harper, yeah, whatever happens with you and Ree, the fact that you're doing this for Mom, it means everything. She's been so worried about him being alone. You've given her peace. Thank you. Harper watched Madison click away in her lawyer heels, feeling the weight of those words settle in her chest. She pulled out her phone. Harper, just survived coffee with your sister. She threatened to destroy me if I hurt you. Ree, that sounds like Madison. Harper, she's terrifying and wonderful. Ree, she texted me the second you left, said you're either the best thing that's ever happened to me or a disaster waiting to happen. Harper, which does she think? Ree, both? She's probably right. Harper, definitely right. Ree, still want to have dinner with my father tonight? I can cancel. Say you're not feeling well. Harper, don't you dare. I'm all in, remember? Ree, I'll pick you up at 6. Reese's father chose a restaurant in the Back Bay that screamed old money. White tablecloths, a sommelier, waiters who moved like ghosts. Harper had changed 3 times before settling on a simple black dress and the pearls her mother had left her. She felt underdressed the moment they walked in. Thomas Kincaid already seated, reviewing what looked like a contract while nursing a scotch. He stood when they arrived, tall, silver-haired with Reese's sharp features, but none of his warmth. Father, Ree said, this is Harper Sinclair. Mr. Kincaid. Harper extended her hand. It's nice to meet you. Thomas's handshake was brief, assessing. Miss Sinclair, please sit. The dinner was exactly as painful as Harper expected. Thomas asked about her education, community college, her career trajectory, event planning with no interest in expanding, her 5-year plan, she didn't have one, her family background, deceased mother, absent father. Each answer seemed to deepen his frown. Event planning, Thomas said, making it sound like a hobby. Interesting choice. I enjoy it, Harper said evenly, making people's important moments perfect. But it's not exactly a growth industry. Have you considered transitioning to corporate event management? Higher margins, better networking opportunities? I like working with real people, weddings, anniversaries, celebrations that actually matter. Thomas sipped his scotch. Noble, but not particularly lucrative. Father, Ree said, his voice tight. I'm simply being practical. If she's going to be part of this family, she should understand what that entails. Harper set down her fork. With all due respect, Mr. Kincaid, I'm not trying to be part of anything. I'm here because I care about your son. Not his money, not his company, not his last name, just him. The table went silent.
Studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. Good. That's the first honest thing anyone said to me in months. Reese looked stunned. The rest of dinner was less confrontational, though Thomas continued to probe, asking about Harper's business model, her client retention rate, her thoughts on the event planning industry's future. But there was a grudging respect in his questions. Now, when dessert arrived, some elaborate chocolate thing Harper was too nervous to taste, Thomas turned to Ree. Your mother wants to see both of you before Switzerland. Video call tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. We'll be there, Reese said. Thomas looked at Harper. She likes you. Eleanor has good instincts about people. Better than mine. He paused. Don't prove her wrong. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't hostile either. Harper would take it. Reese drove Harper home in silence. When they reached her building, he turned off the car but didn't move to leave. "That was brutal," Harper finally said. "I'm sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. He was testing you." "Did I pass?" "You made him smile. That's practically a standing ovation from Thomas Kincaid." Reese turned to face her. "Harper, if this is too much, stop." She took his hand. "I'm not backing out. Your sister interrogated me. Your father grilled me. And tomorrow your mother is going to video call us. I knew what I was signing up for." "Did you know you'd be falling for me?" The question hung between them. "No," Harper admitted. "That part was unexpected." "Good unexpected or bad unexpected?" Harper leaned across the console and kissed him, soft and slow and full of everything she couldn't say. "Good," she whispered against his lips. "Terrifying, but good." Reese pulled her closer, deepening the kiss. Harper forgot about Thomas Kincaid's interrogation, Madison's warning, the video call tomorrow. There was only this. Reese's hands in her hair, his heartbeat against hers, the way he kissed her like she was precious. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Reese rested his forehead against hers. "Come upstairs," Harper heard herself say. "Harper, just to talk. I have wine. Bad wine, but wine." She pulled back to look at him. "I don't want tonight to end yet." Reese studied her face. "Okay." Harper's apartment felt even smaller with Ree in it for the second time, but he didn't seem to mind the cramped space, the mismatched furniture, the general chaos of her life. She poured them each a glass of cheap Merlot, and they sat on her second-hand couch, shoulders touching. "Tell me about your mom," Harper said. "Not the cancer, just her." Reese was quiet for a moment. "She's the strongest person I know. When my dad was building his company, working 100-hour weeks, she basically raised Madison and me alone, but she never complained, never made us feel like we were missing out." "What was she like when you were a kid?" "Magical." Reese smiled at the memory. "Everything was an adventure with her. Grocery shopping became a treasure hunt. Rainy days meant building forts and telling stories. She taught us that money didn't matter. What mattered was kindness and curiosity and paying attention." "Your dad disagreed?" "Fundamentally. They fought about it constantly. Not loud fights. My family doesn't do loud, but you could feel it, this fundamental disagreement about what makes life worth living." Harper squeezed his hand. "Which side did you choose?" "I spent 20 years trying to make my father proud, built the company bigger, made more money, more connections." He paused. "I was miserable. And now? Now I'm sitting in a tiny apartment with cheap wine and a woman who challenges me, and I feel more like myself than I have in years." Harper's chest ached. "Ree, I need to tell you something." He turned to face her fully. "Tonight, after dinner, my father pulled me aside. He said, if I'm serious about you, I need to stop treating this like a business arrangement." Harper's heart stopped. "What did he say?" "I told him it stopped being business the moment I met you." Reese cupped her face. "This is real for me, Harper. Whatever we started out doing, whatever the arrangement was, it's real now. You're real." "I know," Harper whispered. "It's real for me, too." "Then what are we doing?" "I don't know. Falling in love while lying to your dying mother, that's not exactly a fairy tale. What if we tell her the truth after Switzerland? When she makes it through the procedure?" Harper thought about Eleanor's sharp eyes, her warm smile, the way she'd looked at them on that video call. "She'll understand," Harper said. "She seems like someone who appreciates a good love story, even one that starts with a lie." Reese kissed her again, desperate and sweet and full of promise, and Harper let herself fall into it, knowing that they were crossing a line they couldn't uncross, knowing that in 3 days they'd be in Switzerland, lying to everyone they loved, knowing that somehow, impossibly, this fake relationship had become the most real thing in her life. When Reese finally left, late, reluctantly, after one more kiss at the door, Harper leaned against the closed door and smiled. Her phone buzzed. "Ree, thank you for tonight, for surviving my father, for the wine, for being you. Harper, thank you for choosing me. Ree. Always." Harper climbed into bed, but sleep was impossible. In 72 hours, they'd be on a plane to Switzerland, to Eleanor, to the procedure, to the biggest performance and the biggest truth of her life. and Harper realized she wasn't scared anymore. She was ready. The video call
with Eleanor happened at exactly 9 a.m. the next morning. Harper sat beside Ree in his home office, all dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Common. His laptop was positioned on the desk, and Harper could see her own reflection in the black screen before the call connected. She looked terrified. "Breathe," Ree said, squeezing her hand. "I am breathing. You're holding your breath." Harper exhaled. "What if she can tell? What if she looks at us and knows we're lying?" "Then we tell her the truth." Ree turned to face her. "Harper, we don't have to do this. I can tell her you're sick, that we'll call her later." "No." Harper straightened her shoulders. "I'm not backing out now." The screen flickered. Eleanor's face appeared. She looked different than the last video call. Thinner, yes, but there was color in her cheeks, energy in her eyes. The scarf covering her head was a vibrant turquoise that made her skin glow. "There you are." Eleanor's smile was radiant. "Both of you together in Ree's office, which he never lets anyone into." "Hi, Mom," Ree said softly. "Hi, Eleanor," Harper added. "Harper, dear, you look nervous. Don't be. I don't bite." Eleanor adjusted her laptop screen. "Well, I might bite Thomas if he keeps hovering. Darling, go away. This is girl talk." Thomas Kincaid's voice came from off-screen. "I'm monitoring your vitals." "The nurses are monitoring my vitals. You're being overbearing. Shoo." There was a pause, then the sound of a door closing. Eleanor rolled her eyes. 35 years of marriage and the man still can't take a hint. Now, where were we? Oh yes, Harper, tell me everything. How are the wedding plans coming? Harper blinked. "Wedding plans? For you and Ree. I know it's early, but a mother can dream." Eleanor's eyes sparkled with mischief. "I've already been looking at venues. There's a gorgeous garden in the Berkshires that would be perfect for a June wedding." Ree cleared his throat. "Mom, we haven't. I know, I'm getting ahead of myself. Your father says I'm impossible." Eleanor leaned forward conspiratorially. "But between you and me, Harper, I'm running out of time to be patient. So if you're going to marry my son, I'd like to at least see the engagement." Harper's throat tightened. "Eleanor, I'm joking, mostly." Eleanor's expression softened. "I can see it, though. The way you look at each other. That's real love. The kind that lasts." Harper felt Ree's hand tighten around hers. "We're taking it slow," Harper managed. "Getting to know each other. That's wise, but not too slow, I hope. I'm not going to be around forever." "Mom," Ree said, his voice rough. "Oh, don't get emotional on me. I'm stating facts. The procedure is Friday. Dr. Weber gives me a 60% chance. Those are decent odds, but they're not guarantees." Eleanor smiled gently. "Which is why I'm so glad you're both coming to Switzerland. I want to spend whatever time I have left with the people I love. And Harper, you're part of that now." Harper's eyes burned. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take care of him when I'm gone. Say you'll make sure he doesn't disappear into that office and forget to live." Eleanor's voice cracked slightly. "Say you'll love him enough for both of us." "I will," Harper whispered. "I promise." Ree stood abruptly and walked to the window, his back to the camera. Eleanor watched him with understanding in her eyes. "He's crying, isn't he?" "Yes." "Good. He needs to cry more. He holds everything in." Eleanor dabbed at her own eyes. "Harper, can I tell you something? Mother to almost daughter-in-law." "Of course." "The moment Ree told me about you, I knew you were different. He talked about you the way his father used to talk about me, like you were the first person who really saw him. Not the money, not the company, just him." Eleanor paused. "That's rare. Don't let it go." "I won't." "And Harper, whatever happens Friday, whether I make it through or not, know that you've already given me the greatest gift. You've given me hope that my son won't be alone. That's all any mother really wants." Harper was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "You're going to make it through. You're going to be at our wedding demanding we have it in the Berkshires." Eleanor laughed through her own tears. "I love your optimism. Hold on to it. Ree needs that." They talked for another 20 minutes about lighter things. Eleanor's terrible hospital food, the view from her clinic room, the nosy German couple next door who kept trying to set her up with their widowed son. By the time the call ended, Harper felt like she'd known Eleanor for years. Ree still stood at the window, shoulders tense. Harper crossed to him and wrapped her arms around him from behind. "I can't lose her," Ree said quietly. "You won't." You don't know that. No, I admitted. But I know she's a fighter, and I know she has every reason to fight, to see what happens with us, to meet Madison's future kids, to prove your father wrong about something. Ree turned in her arms. His eyes were red, his face wet with tears. Harper had never seen him look more beautiful. I love you, he said. The words hung in the air between them. Harper's heart stopped. What? I love you. I know it's fast and complicated and probably crazy, but I love you. Ree cupped her face. I fell in love with you the moment you told me my floral budget was ridiculous, and every day since then I've fallen harder. Harper couldn't breathe. Ree, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. Before Switzerland, before everything gets more complicated.